Hey there everybody, thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel once again. Welcome back to Martial Arts for All. Today I'm going to be discussing a couple different things. One thing I'm going to discuss is how to spot what's called a Mcdojo. First of all, let me define Mcdojo for you. I will give you the best definition I can. If you ask any martial artist who's been around for a good period of time, they'll tell you that a Mcdojo is a place that just doesn't run things the correct way at all. Let me give you some examples. If you walk in there and you see people that are yellow belts, green belts, and all this, and they're made to be assistant instructors at such a low rank, that normally doesn't occur. So another one would be just by watching the instructors. I mean, if they have no idea what they're talking about, if they tell somebody that signs up, you go in to talk to an instructor when you sign up and they say, oh, you'll be a black belt within a year. No, I'm sorry, I kind of laughed at that one, because any reputable school will not make you a black belt in a year. On average, it depends on the school. Some are longer, some are not quite as long. But in general, you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 years to earn a black belt. So anybody that tells you you'll be a black belt within a year, that's kind of it's going to throw up a red flag too. Another way you can spot a Mcdojo is just watch the instructor. Some people say that you can tell by the uniforms they wear, if they're full of patches and all kinds of things. I don't necessarily agree with that, because you never know, that instructor may have just purchased a new uniform, and that instructor may have very well earned those patches. But as you watch them teach, if you go in to observe as you watch them teach, you'll know if they know how to teach or not. And you'll also get that feeling, like I said in the last video, some schools will let you take the first course for free, the first lesson for free, so you'll get an idea of how the teacher teaches. And like I said in the last video, go with your gut, and if too many alarm bells go off, then that's probably not a place you want to train. Another thing you want to look at is, how's the dojo kept? I mean, if it's kept nice and neat and professional, then chances are that instructor really knows what they're doing and takes pride in what they do. Now, if you go into a dojo and there's so much stuff in there that it looks like they're having a garage sale, that might be an issue too. Another thing you want to look at is safety. Is that instructor a safe instructor, or does he have his or her students doing all kinds of wild stuff? That's another thing to look at too. And that's another way to spot a Mcdojo. No, a Mcdojo is not a place with a drive-up window where you can order a large fries and value meal. But that would be another warning sign. If the dojo also doubles as a fast food restaurant, that's probably not a place you'd want to train. And you see them a lot, and you hear you hear the term Mcdojo a lot. And like I said, it simply shows it's a term used for schools that are not reputable schools, and that it's more than likely the instructor has no idea what they're doing. Another thing you can look for to tell if you're part of a Mcdojo or not is testings. If testings are overly easy and you get the feeling that belts are just handed out, that could be a possible red flag too. You should always feel like you earned a rank when you go to a school. You should feel like you had to work for it and you did your best and it was, given to you because you did the best you could. So that's something you want to watch for. You'll have to excuse me. Our phone is ringing in the background. Must not have been too important. They didn't let it ring too often. But anyway, that's a few ways to spot a Mcdojo. And back to the whole uniform thing. Another thing I would have people look at is what kinds of patches are they wearing as an instructor. Do they come in there wearing, patches for Splits Club and Black Belt Club and all that? Those types of, because in my opinion, those kind of patches are for the younger students. So if they're wearing stuff like that, chances are they're just trying to impress you with all the patches they wear. Now, on my personal uniform that I wear when I compete, I have a white dobak, which is the Korean word for uniform. I have a white dobak that I don't have anything on. It's plain, but I do have my black uniform, which I do wear to competitions. And the patches that are on that uniform, there is a USA patch on one sleeve, a Korean flag patch on the other sleeve, and I have a Stars and Stripes Yin Yang Taekwondo patch on the chest of my uniform. And I also have stars on my lapel. Now, those were given to students when I was taking Hapkido, and that's where my black uniform came from. I was part of a special group at that school called the Elite Warriors, and I was also on the Storm Team, which stands for Special Team of Role Models. And when you were part of that program, you also had access to the CIT program, or Certified Instructor Training. That's where my black uniform came from. I did some changes to my patches and to fit my personal style that I came up with. Another thing I want to talk about with you today is, and this is kind of aimed at instructors, one thing I want to talk about is, and something that I think is very important, is to make sure that you spend the time to come up with a plan for each one of your lessons. That way there won't be gaps when you're teaching. You won't be, say one day you want to teach, what you want to do is you want to set a plan out for each class for each day. A good instructor will do that. That's another sign of a good school. Their lessons will be very structured. They'll have a plan for each day. And, sometimes the instructor might even tell the students what they're going to be doing that day. They're going to say, hey, we're going to work on these things today, then we're going to work on this. And, I think that's very important to have a plan laid out. Some instructors might prefer to just wing it, and that's fine. And some of the higher ranked instructors, I'm sure, could definitely do that. So if you're more comfortable doing that, that's fine. But typically more specifically for teachers that are just starting out teaching martial arts, what you want to do is you want to have each lesson planned out in advance. Because you don't want to get there and be like, okay, we did this, now what are we going to do? Because if you don't know what to do, then your students aren't going to know what is expected of them either. Another tip I would give is to be firm, but be fair in your testing. when my program starts, yellow belt, green belt, orange belt, some of those lower belt ranks, yeah, you want to be a little bit more flexible with your grading scale, because you don't want your students to just give up. Well, I couldn't even make it to yellow belt. If they can't even make it to the first belt, chances are they're not going to be too interested in it. So, in my opinion, and what I'm going to do with my program is, if they know the basics, that's fine. I'm not going to expect a yellow belt to be, flying through the air or anything like that. But if they know the basics and they know their terminology, that's what I'm going to be looking for when they test early on. Now, when they get into the intermediate ranks, say in my system, when they start getting to purple belt and above, then I'm going to be a little bit more of a stickler for technique and how they're doing things. And it's not just that, just the skills that I'll look for. Are they showing the personality traits that we're going to be talking about during their training, like loyalty, like respect? I'm going to teach them the 5 tenets of Taekwondo, and I would expect someone of an intermediate and higher rank to know these things, not just know the 5 tenets of Taekwondo, but to exhibit those tenets in their daily life, and not just in the dojang or the training facility, but also outside the facility, in public and at home. Another thing I'm going to be looking at is academics, because I believe good academics are important. I would like to keep up with how the students are doing in school, in their academics and grades, because part of being a martial artist is not just flying and kicking and technique, but it's also learning academics and expanding and learning also. So I'm going to be interested in how my students are going to perform in school and how they treat others both in and out of the training facility. That will factor in to my grading when it comes to testing, or it may play a role in whether a student tests at all. 5 tenets of Taekwondo that I'm going to teach my students: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. Those are the 5 tenets of Taekwondo that I'm going to teach my students, and will expect my students to not only learn but exhibit. So, but as I say, when they get to those intermediate ranks and higher up, yeah, I will be more strict when it comes to testing. And when it comes to those higher belt ranks, I cannot guarantee, and I will not guarantee it to a student, that they will pass the first time. If they've earned it, they will pass. But if I'm seeing technique issues or attitude issues even, because it's like I said, to me it's not all going to be about technique. It's also going to be about your attitude. So if a student is doing well and progressing well, that's going to be a factor in whether they test, and it's also going to be a factor in whether they pass that grading or not. So, and that's for adults and students, both. So that'll be a role in whether I pass a student or not, but I will never guarantee that a student is going to pass a grading. I will never tell them, hey, I guarantee you're going to pass. No, I'm not going to do that. Especially with the higher belt ranks. Because I want to know, is a student going to stick with it or not? So, you'll have to excuse me, our phone's ringing again. I guess we're pretty popular today. Anyway, I just want to let you know that that's how I'm going to run my specific program. I'm currently still looking for a location, and I hope to get started soon, because I know it's already the end of October, so we're getting into the winter months pretty soon, and I'm sure people will want a nice indoor activity to do. So that's, like I said, I am not going to guarantee that a student will pass the testing, but I won't tell them that they're going to fail either. So my gradings are going to be tougher, and I want to find out who's going to stick with it. If a student doesn't pass the testing, are they going to come back? Are they going to stick with it? I haven't decided yet how far apart my testings are going to be. Right now I will say that I'm leaning towards every 3 months at the beginning. Say from yellow belt, green belt, orange belt, those 3 intermediate ranks up to purple belt will probably be every 3 months. 3 months testing for 3-month period for yellow belt, which will be their first earned belt, and then when they get up after they get to purple belt, the testing times will be 6 months. That's what I'm looking at right now, but I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with that or not at this point. I have some things nailed down that I will expect them to know as students. Some academic things I expect them to learn. Because, as I say, it's not all about technique. You have to learn. We have to understand, as martial artists, why do we do what we do? Why do we choose to do the martial art that we do, and what's the history behind what we're choosing to do? Why is it that we're going to do Taekwondo? What's some of the history behind Taekwondo? And also the other academics are the things I'm going to expect them to know. And as they progress, they will be required to learn more. So anyway, there's some tips on how to spot a Mcdojo. And again, if your gut says, hey, this isn't for me, or this isn't the place to train, go with how you feel. Okay. Another way, in that belt rank thing that I had discussed with you, I just mentioned, another thing you want to watch is if testings are like every month. That's, in my estimation, in my personal opinion, I don't think a month is long enough to learn everything you need to learn to do a testing, especially for intermediate and advanced ranks. So that's just my opinion. Others may have another opinion, and that's fine. But in my opinion, a month is not long enough for a testing. So anyway, I appreciate everyone watching this video. I'm also going to post another video with this video. It's not going to be with this video. I'll post it separately. But I'm going to be posting my performances at this year's Columbia Cup tournament held in Columbia, Missouri. I live in the state of Missouri. The Columbia Cup is in the city of Columbia, Missouri. Go Tigers! And to me, that's a great tournament. It's run by an excellent martial artist by the name of Ray Walker. He runs an excellent tournament. He's a very, very knowledgeable martial artist, and I've turned to him for guidance and help from time to time. He has some excellent students. They not only perform well, but they conduct themselves very well. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the way that Mr. Walker teaches. I've not had the honor of observing one of his classes yet, but I hope to do so very soon. But I'm going to be posting a video that will contain my performances at the Columbia Cup tournament. When I say performances, I mean my performance in empty-handed pumse or kata. Kata is the Japanese form, or Pumse is the Korean term for a form, which is a series of moves that are executed in a certain order. And I'm also going to be in that video. There will also be my sword form, not sword, but my weapons kata. And the weapon that I have chosen is the. You'll hear them called several different things, but in the Korean term, they're called songnats. In the Japanese, call them. I ought to know the Japanese form. Give me a minute. Kamas, excuse me. The Japanese form is Japanese word for the weapon is kamas. The Korean term for the weapon is songnats, which is double sickles basically. It's two bladed weapons. They are basically small sickles. And that's another thing I'll discuss with you at some point. I will post a video, and we'll discuss some of the where some of the weapons came from. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you gained some knowledge on how to spot a Mcdojo and some tips on how to be an even better instructor. So thank you again for tuning in today, and there will be other videos to follow very soon. If this is the first time you've watched a video of mine, I would encourage you to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button, and also hit that bell up there for notifications anytime I post new content. So thank you again for tuning in, everybody, and have a great day.